Hello and welcome to episode 549 of Fergo on the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me as always is a glorious League Freak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
Going very well, Andrew. I hope you're doing good and our listeners are doing good.
Yeah, hopefully they've got through the last episode.
Yeah, it was nearly 3 hours long, hey?
Yeah, you've probably still got another hour and a half to go. So, chop people.
It was good to do the episode and line all the teams up. It kind of got me ready for the footy season to start. I'm ready now. It's time.
So the last episode was great. We got all of the footy talk started.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other stuff that's gone on since then.
Yeah, there's a few things. There's finally some footy news and some things to talk about. One thing that jumped out at us that we were like, that's ridiculous, and we're going to talk about it all in this ep.
We are. Which one do you think we should hit on first?
I reckon the first thing we should do is talk about the effect that long-term alcoholism has on the human brain. It makes you forget things. It makes you look over things. It makes you just say things that are stupid. That's all I'd like to say on that.
Okay, so we're talking about Phil Rothfield then, I take it.
Well, if you want
to. It just seemed like that's the path you were sending me down.
Oh, it was, yeah, definitely.
Oh, good. All right. I wasn't poking up the wrong tree.
No.
Phil Rothfield put out his personal team of the team of the century thus far, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
Or did he call it something else? No, he did call it team of the century so far.
Yeah. So I mean, we've had a quarter of the century gone, so I guess it's a good time to do it. But his team seemed pretty fucking ridiculous to us.
I need to check. I think there might have been a typo in there because I think it said Buzz Rothfield's team of the century so far, 2020 to 2025.
Oh, really?
But anyway, I'm sure someone else fixed that up.
Probably feels like you're a century if you're him.
So we won't go through the blurb at the start because that'll probably spoil a bit of it, and it's stupid anyway.
Yeah.
Fullback, Billy Slater.
Are we going to go through one by one, or are we going to...
We can go through one by one.
Okay, fullback. So if you're doing a fullback, it's like between Slater... There's a bunch of them. You could say Slater, Inglis, Lockyer. You could say Minicello. You could say Tedesco. I think that's pretty much all the main ones.
I reckon for this period it's probably just down to Slater and Tedesco, but I'm okay with Slater getting the top goal.
I think I would put in Slater because I know Inglis is going to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Wingers Brett Morris and Alex Johnson.
What the fuck?
Well, I didn't take long.
Well, listen, okay. First of all, for some reason, Brett Morris, in the last 3 weeks of his career, got elevated into some level of being a player he just never was. And you and me commented on this when it was happening. I was like, what the hell's going on? Why are people calling this guy one of the all-time greats? It is crazy. And Alex Johnson, I mean, has Alex Johnson been one of the top 5 wingers in the game at any point in his career?
It's a good question, and obviously it's open to conversation. I think all that's happened here is Phil Rothfield thought that the only way to judge a winger ever is by how many tries they've scored, and obviously his first 3 picks, Slater, Morris, Johnson, are also the 3 top try scorers since 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all he's done.
So for wingers, right? I was thinking about this. I think Israel Folau has to be in there. I think you have to, and I'm talking the conversation, not in the team necessarily. Israel Folau's got to be in there. I think Radradra has to be in the conversation. I think To'o is forcing himself into the conversation. I think it's going to be very hard to beat Josh Addo-Carr to one of the wing spots. And outside of that, no one jumps out at me. Can you think of anyone else?
Hazem El Masri? I'm just thinking of other names that you haven't mentioned.
Yeah, I wouldn't have Hazem El Masri.
Manu Vatuvei?
Yeah, I wouldn't have him.
Yeah. David Nofaluma?
I can't even make a joke about that guy anymore.
No, I think that joke just made it all. I think though that's probably the most Lottie Takuri.
See, I wouldn't have Lottie Takuri even. I don't think he was at his best in the NRL for that long, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't really think of anybody else, to be honest.
So who would you have? I'd personally probably, if I had to choose, I'd probably have to say Addo Carr and Israel Folau at this stage. Keeping in mind, To'o's got a long way to go in his career still, and he'll probably get in there eventually. But yeah,
look, I think I'd have Addo Carr on one wing. I just don't know, man.
Yeah,
it's a tricky one because the role of the winger has probably changed just as much as any other position, if not more so.
Mm-hmm.
You think at the start of 2000, they were at the end of those days, they were just had to be fast and score tries, and then they started becoming kick return specialists, and some of them had to sometimes fill in the second row and things like that, and all of a sudden you've got these 6'2" things on the sideline who can jump over houses and do the 110 flat.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different beast. Like I think the epitome of what a good modern winger looks like now, knowing that there's still variations. Tua is a great example of a variation that just absolutely works.
Yeah, To'o's a bit of a one of one too, in that like he is a lot smaller in stature than maybe other wingers, but at the same time he's weirdly good under the high ball despite that. But his go forward is that of like a top.
It's on another level,
forward.
Man. It's another level.
Yeah,
I think though, if you wanted to make the perfect winger, you'd start with someone very close to Ronaldo Mulitalo.
Okay.
He's got the speed, he's got the height, he's good under the high ball, he does good kick returns, just covers all those areas that those wingers need to have these days. Not saying that is 100% always going to work. 2-0 is a good example of you can have a shorter guy there who is going to be just as good, if not better. So it is a tricky one because I think that position has changed a bit. But in saying that, Folau seems to have been one of the first in that newer type of winger that just dominated.
Yeah, and I mean, for all of the bullshit that happened around him and his life banned from the game because of Instagram posts.
Wow, life ban.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
If he just had done, if he had just done some performance enhancing stuff, man, allegedly,
yeah,
he'd have been fine.
Anything else? He could literally have done anything else. Apparently,
how dare you be religious?
Yeah, but he I think people probably forget how good he was from like day one through to the last game of rugby league he played. He was like one of the elite stars, and I think he definitely would have been if he'd have come back when he wanted to. But yeah, that's so. I would probably have him. I'd probably have him and Addo Carr, but like Radradra was so damn good when he was in rugby league. But it does take points off him for he never really showed the same all round game in the time he was in rugby league that say a Folau did or an Addo Carr did, and I think that would go against him. But yeah, it wouldn't be Morris or Johnson.
No. Next up, we've got centres. Greg Inglis and Jamie Lyon.
Well, Greg Inglis walks in.
Yep.
And my other centre at this stage would probably be Crichton.
Not Josh Morris?
No, funnily enough, not. Crichton, what can you say about Crichton? Like he's actually, just...
There is another centre you haven't considered.
Okay.
Jared Croker?
That's hilarious. Ricky Stewart would pick him first and make him captain.
Well, look, I'll go through some other ones, okay, that probably could have been considered. So, Matt Cooper.
He was very good, but he was only very good.
Tamana Tahu?
No.
Nigel Vungana?
Once again, very good, but only very good.
Who else have we got here? Justin Hodges?
He was a bit better than very good, but not quarter of a century team level.
Mark Gasnier?
Matt Cooper. Is Matt Cooper with worse defence?
Yeah, with a better surname.
Yeah.
Steve Maddai?
No.
Dane Gagai?
No, very good player, but no.
Chris Lawrence?
No.
Will Chambers?
You're taking the piss now.
I'm going through players who played around about 130, 140 or more games at centre.
Okay.
Brent Tate.
Once again, very good player, but not quarter of a century team.
Willie Tonga?
No.
James Roberts? Geez, didn't we forget about James Roberts fast?
Yeah. That was a weird time in our lives.
That happened.
Yeah.
Joey Manu?
No.
No?
No.
As you said, Steve Crichton. He's got to be up pretty high on the list.
Who would you pick?
Oh, mate, we missed Shannon Hegarty as well. Damn.
I need to recalculate.
For me, I'd probably go with, obviously Inglis is there.
Yeah, it just walks in.
See, I did quite like Vungana.
Mm-hmm.
I did think he was quite good. Another one, I guess, is Michael Jennings.
Yeah, he was good at his best. He was very good.
And I think if you were in a position where you got to pick between Jennings at his best and Lyon at his best, you'd probably put Jennings at centre and Lyon at 5'8". You wouldn't just pick Lyon at centre and leave Jennings out. I think Jennings would force his way in that side.
Well, yeah, at their best, Jennings was a better centre than Lyon.
Yeah.
I always thought Jamie Lyon was overrated.
Likewise. So I'd probably Jennings and Inglis.
Okay.
That's me.
Okay.
Yeah. 5'8", Darren Lockyer.
Well, I mean, who are you looking at here? I mean, Lockyer.
Fittler,
yeah. I'm trying to think if anybody just got in there in the in the early 2000s. Like Laurie Daly, was he still going in 2000s?
He was, but didn't play much.
Yeah,
I mean, Jamie Lyon, I guess, is there.
Nah.
If you needed to still fit him in.
Preston
Campbell.
I think it's Lockyer.
Yeah, that's hard to argue against it.
I mean, Munster would be in there too, but I'd take Lockyer.
It's Braithen Astor.
Tigers, Braithen Astor, maybe.
Oh, boy. Halfback.
This was one you were a little bit pissed off about, and I totally got it.
Yeah. And look, as we've said before, these things, okay, I'm very much, and we've already heard it already, I'm very much against recency bias. So whenever I'm doing one of these teams and it includes the current period, I tend to not include players that are currently playing where I can. Obviously, I've just done Addo Carr. But even when there's an opportunity to put Stephen Crichton in there, and I rate him very highly, I still sort of erred on it a little bit.
And to be fair with Addo Carr, if he retired as we were doing this podcast, his career that he has already had is really a whole career worth of.
That's right.
You know,
Crichton's still very young, so there's still time for him to expand on that a bit more.
Yeah.
But at halfback, he's got Nathan Cleary, and I think he's put it there purely to get clicks on the article.
I agree.
So I was thinking about this, and the best way to try and describe this, okay, if you had 26, you're building your very first ever rugby league team, and you get to choose your halfback, and your option you've got is 26-year-old Andrew Johns and 26-year-old Nathan Cleary. I'm taking Johns. Like, this is not even considering what goes on in the future afterwards. Just, you're there at the moment. They're both 26. They're both here right now. I'm taking Johns.
Yeah, no, look, the thing that taints it, right, is that we know 26, not even, like, we know at some point Andrew Johns starts to break down physically, right?
Yes.
And we don't know what Nathan Cleary's career going forward is, right? So that's the thing. But on what Johns has done at 26 and what Cleary's done at 26, and Cleary is like, what he's done at 26 puts him in elite company all time in terms of halfbacks. Like, there's very few that have won 4 premierships in a row at his age.
Obviously. But that's the thing.
I take Andrew Johns, yes.
It feels to me like he's put Cleary in there because of the fact he's won 4 premierships.
Yeah.
But he hasn't used that same metric for every single position in the side.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going... you can't just go on the team achievements for one player, right? Because if that one good player, if you put Cleary in the West Tigers, he doesn't win 4 premierships. Does that mean he's a shittier player?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a stupid argument because it takes an entire, not even just the 13 players, it takes an entire squad to win those titles and a coach and all that other stuff.
Well, a really good example you and me have used in the past with halfbacks is Cooper Cronk, who was a very solid halfback. He was a very good halfback, Yes. But he wasn't that extra level of halfback that the greats have that extra step in their game.
Yeah.
And look, he went to a different club and they won a premiership as well. There are plenty of really good halfbacks that have been there at a premiership winning team. Brent Sherwin won a premiership, He was a really good halfback.
Yeah.
But Cooper Cronk wasn't that extra level that we saw in the likes of a Johns or a Thurston. And I think you can say that about Cleary as well. Like the things Cleary has done, especially in finals matches, is all-time stuff. Like, it just goes in the highlight reels of all-time stuff. So, like, Peter Sterling is another one where, like, he was a very, very solid halfback, but you add the extra things that he would do when it really mattered, and it elevates him to a different level.
Correct.
Andrew Johns is the best rugby league player I've ever seen. He just is. And there were things that he made his teams achieve that he made bottom third of the league teams like premiership contenders, and only just got beaten by very good teams. It's Andrew Johns is the player you select right now. It might be Cleary in 8 years from now, but right now it's Andrew Johns. I could understand if some people wanted to say, well, what about Jonathan Thurston? And I understand that argument, but Andrew Johns was better than Jonathan Thurston. He just was. Yeah,
and you can only pick one. That's the thing. And Thurston was such a great 5'8" as well, but I mean, he wasn't a better 5'8" than Lockyer. So, it's tricky. Jonathan Thurston is just very unfortunate in that area. And every era has players who are just unfortunate like that. Like, a good example in the 80s and 90s was, Mario Fennick. Yeah. Probably would have played test football in the decade either side, but just got caught in a period when there was just so many good hookers around.
Greg Alexander, another one.
Exactly. Perfect example. Des Haslam in the 80s was nuts when it comes to playmakers. So, it's a good example. We go into lock, and he's got Jason Taumalolo.
Yeah, I couldn't argue with that. Like, who else could you have as a lock?
It's a hard one. It's hard to go past him just because he did change the role a bit from being just a ball player to a ball player who could just run through humans.
Yeah, in a golden era of giant humans that were stopping other giant humans, no one could stop him.
No.
And he's just one of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
He just is. So, yeah.
Second rowers. Oh, my God. This one hurts my head.
This one, like, this was the one that made you and me need to talk about this.
Sonny Bill Williams and Sam Burgess.
Stupid.
Right. So can I say something? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I want you. So I'm going to say this preamble because I'm about to mention Paul Gallen. All right.
Okay.
Right. I want you to just strip away all of the biases and opinions you've got about all the stuff that went on outside of the playing the game that you've got of him.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
good.
Go on.
Right. So we're just talking about style of play, the way that and the position that they had in the team and what they did on the field. I don't see how Sam Burgess is better than Paul Gallen.
Oh no. Not
right. And so I don't know how the hell Sam Burgess is so insanely elevated. He got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Which was dumb.
I don't get that. Paul Gallen, I think, consistently was better than Burgess. Burgess had like 2 or 3 good seasons, and then outside of that, he was constantly dropping the ball, getting sin-binned, or just being useless. And then he fucked off to rugby union to try and win a World Cup.
I think when
I just have such a low. I don't get the hype on Burgess. See, I think the best English forward we've seen in Australia in the last 20 years has been Elliot Whitehead.
I would say, yeah, like he was very solid. He was very solid. Like the thing about Elliot Whitehead is he was an addition. He was never a subtraction. And he was never a distraction either.
No, and he became a leader in that forward pack.
Yeah.
Hugely rate Whitehead. Don't rate Burgess. Sonny Bill Williams.
That's laughable.
Overrated.
That's so laughable.
Yes, he was a very good player, but for how long?
He was he's a bench player, right, for the Dogs. Just barely started doing his career. Fucked off to France, then come back for the Roosters, and it just hardly was involved in it. Like it's crazy. It is so crazy.
He's just not there for mine.
No,
he's just not there. And the other one you mentioned was Boyd Cordner.
No, just no. So silly.
And what was it? I said, just ahead of Steve Menzies and Boyd Cordner.
Boyd Cordner. Man, I wouldn't have even thought of Boyd Cordner.
Look, we probably could have seen a lot more of Boyd Cordner. What happened to him in his career was very, very unfortunate. That's not a fault of his. That's just unfortunate. But I probably, based on what we did get of him, I do rate him highly. I don't rate him that highly.
I thought he was okay. I just thought he was okay.
He was pretty consistent for the majority of his career.
Yeah.
Which is what you want from a forward.
Yeah.
So now we've got to look at who should be there.
Well, I would find it hard not to pick Steve Menzies. He's a historically significant player in the game's history, a premiership winner, was very important to the Manly Sea Eagles right through, to their last premiership. The other second rower, it's probably more difficult.
It is.
Because you could go someone like a Nathan Hindmarsh, but I think as time has gone on, the way that he was thought of as an elite player has fallen away. And that's what happens sometimes to players.
Well, here's a few names, all right.
Uh-huh.
We've got Gavin Cooper.
No.
Anthony Watmo.
Definitely not.
Ryan Hoffman.
He was pretty good.
See, Hoffman, I think, is one that deserves to be in that conversation.
Yeah.
Andrew Ryan.
No.
Josh Papali.
Josh Papali.
Yeah, because he spent the first half of his career in the back row before moving to the front row. And I'm a huge fan of Papali.
Yeah, me too.
And I would put him in there. We've also got Simon Mannering. Paul Gallen did play in the second row as well.
Paul Gallen did.
Who else have we got?
Look, if you were going on pure...
there's Alex Glenn.
If you're going on pure performances...
Yeah.
Paul Gallen is the player. He just is. On pure performances.
Yeah.
Like, we have not seen a player play 80 minutes to State of Origin at 110% the way that Paul Gallen did. It was like he just had something extra you couldn't put your finger on.
This is true.
And on pure performances, he would be that player.
Wade Graham played more games in the back row than Boy Cordner did.
I wouldn't have Wade Graham, but I know you love Wade Graham.
I'm a huge fan of Wade Graham. Willie Mason?
No.
Mark Minicello?
No. Look, Willie Mason could have been a walk-up start here, but it just... After he got that injury playing in that it wasn't an exhibition game, it was a test match in Philadelphia against the United States.
Yep.
He just wasn't the same player after that, unfortunately.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you, because there's a person I know of that I haven't mentioned who I would put in there.
Okay.
Tohu Harris.
Really?
Yeah, and I would put him in there. I'd probably put him in there alongside, I don't know, Ruben Wiki maybe, if he played. Did Wiki play in the 2000s? Please tell me he did.
Yeah, he did.
He played 180 games then. He played 94 in the back row. I'm putting Ruben Wiki in there with Tohu Harris.
Okay, you know what? I'm changing it up. I'm doing Menzies and Wiki.
I like both of them.
Yeah.
I like both of them.
You like my ones better than your ones?
Nearly.
Okay.
But I've got a much bigger respect and love for Tohu Harris than I do with Menzies.
All right, Mr. Recency Bias.
That's me. Hey, he's retired. It's not recency bias anymore.
Good point.
Props. He's got Joe Barria, Hargraves, and Shane Webke.
First of all, okay, let's get the good stuff out the way first, right?
Yeah.
Let's have the steak. Shane Webke, just not even question.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
The idea that fucking Jared Warrior-Hargraves was anything more than a middle of the road, fucking half the time, just why do people make these players into something they're not? It's fucking crazy. Just rate him how he was, which was all right sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, remember when he was retiring and we're like, he's one of the best players that has ever played front row. He's such a leader. And I'm looking at him thinking like, what the fuck are you people talking about? He's hardly ever there because he gets so many suspensions and nobody ever lost a wink of sleep having to play against him. Like, remember all the big games he played where he was really good? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
Every time the Panthers played against them, against the Roosters, that guy would disappear. And they'd be like, oh, Jared Warrior-Hargraves is going to go up against the Panthers, famed pack. And you'd watch the game and you'd be like, where is this guy?
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I never really rated him.
Yeah.
It's hard to.
Yeah. So the other player,
yeah,
Petro Sivnasiva's in there. Josh Papali's obviously in there.
Well, we haven't named Sivnasiva yet. We've put Papali up there.
Yeah, but
we didn't put Papali in the side, did we?
No, we decided against it. Right, so that's what I'm saying. Like for this second, because like Webke's just a walk-up start, right?
And I'm already struggling to find anyone after those two.
Yeah, like after those two in terms of props that could be in that other position.
Yeah, Papali and Sivnasiva.
I think
who's on their level?
I
Who else you got?
At the moment, in terms of like whole career stuff, no one. I think Big Tino could get there one day. And you know what? I think he will get there one day. James Fisher Harris, you'd probably have to think about, but I don't think he's on their level.
How about Willie Mason?
No.
You don't got no time for Will?
When he was at his best, I thought Willie Mason was incredible. But as I said, after he got that knee injury, he just wasn't the same player, and his career kind of went off the rails a bit, unfortunately.
Dave Taylor? All right. I'm going to throw one at you.
Dane Carlo?
I'm going to throw one at you, which I think a lot of people would instantly go no, and then they'd stop and think for a little bit and go, Not say yes, but then go, hang on, was I a bit hasty to say no? And that's Andrew Fafita.
Oh, I'm gonna go. That's no from me, dog.
Yeah, I would initially go just no.
Yes,
but he was quite a different and unique front rower and effective for a fair chunk of his career. He did fade badly fast at the end in the last few seasons, but for a front rower, no front rower that I'm aware of since 2000 has played 200 games in that position. They've moved around, they've been on the bench, whatever else. So they might have played 200 games in the front row, but none have started in the front row for 200 games. So it's a hard gig to do. I'm not advocating for him. Just throwing him out there as one of those players where you go, no, you just stop and think a little bit. There's another one which is Adam Fanua-Blake.
I was about to say Adam Fanua-Blake.
It kind of fits in that same mould.
Yeah. Look, I think Adam Fanua-Blake is a better player than Fafita. He obviously doesn't have the offload game that Fafita has, but I think just he's a better all-round forward. And I think if he continues on his trajectory, he might push himself towards some of these goals. But man, to crack that top three props in Fafita, Sivanasiva, and Josh Papali. It's like they're three gold standard. Yeah. You get like 12 plus years of top standard front row forward, just reliability there every week out of them. There's not many players like that all time.
I'm looking here. We've also got Steve Price.
Yeah, he to me is like a forward version that was better than Boyd Cordner in terms of like consistent, a lot of good things, but not elite.
Nathan Kalis?
No, I think he's just a pretty good front rower.
Fui Moi Moi?
No, inconsistent.
Martin Tapau?
No.
Roy Asatasi?
No.
Josh Perry? Daniel Soafiti? Marco Mealy?
No. He unfortunately, his career tailed off pretty bad.
Aaron Woods?
His career... remember the Aaron Woods era. That was a special time.
Yeah. There's not many more. Jason Riles, Todd Payton. It's sort of dropping away a little bit. John Scandalis.
Look, you got to...
Ben Hannett.
Look, a lot of those guys wouldn't be very good in today's current NRL, where the dudes are, like, everyone's so big and so mobile. And then you've got the elite ones that are also like have so much cardio. Like you look at someone like Big Tino, who's not only a giant, who not only is mobile, but if you really, really, really were desperate, he could probably play 80 minutes. It's such a good era for forwards. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine putting that and there's plenty of teams you could do this to, but the West Tigers of 2005 was so unique with the way their forward pack was and their mobility and stuff. But can you imagine putting that side against like the Titans this year, who have this giant forward pack? It would be really interesting to see how they handled it, because like the forwards these days, and we don't even think the Titans are going to be good this year.
No, that's right.
It's a crazy time for forwards in the NRL.
It really is. But yeah, I'm going with Sivana and Webke. Yeah,
it's very, very hard to not go that way. Papali's very unlucky. Very, very unlucky.
Yes. Hooker, Cameron Smith. I mean, that's pretty much an easy one.
Well, are you sure?
Who do you reckon?
Are you sure? I don't know. I was thinking Simon Benetti. What are you laughing at?
Hey, Daniel Fitzhenry played at hooker a few times.
he
won a premiership.
He was my favourite hooker / back rower / centre / 5'8" ever.
Oh, man. So on the bench, he's got Thurston, Steve Menzies, Paul Gallen, and Jesse Bromwich.
Jesse Bromwich?
So I'd probably have Josh Papali.
Yep.
Steve Menzies.
Yeah, see, I had Menzies in my starting side, so I'd probably have... I guess I'd have to go Gallen purely on performance.
Yep. I'm putting Gallen in there as well. And I'm putting Benji Marshall on the benches too.
Yeah, I would put Benji on the bench, and I got one more bench space. I guess the last bench space I would have, man, that's a tough one. There's so many good players. Part of me, like Tedesco's right there. Who do you think is a better player? Who would you rather? Okay, here's one.
Do you want some of the names that I wanted to put in there but couldn't fit room in there for?
Okay.
Danny Baderas?
Yeah.
He was just the first one that came to mind because he's just outstanding. I had toyed with the idea of Luke Lewis just because he was so goddamn consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Latrell Mitchell, but recency bias told me to say no.
Mm-hmm. Part of me feels like that last spot in my team should be Anthony Minicello, and I like, you could probably make a really good argument that Tedesco's had a better career than Minicello. But I think at their very best, I think maybe Minicello was a better player. And then there's all like, I also am sort of thinking like, man, Cleary could get that last spot. And
see, the thing I think though with the Tedesco Minicello thing, is I think Minicello had better, more reliable ball players around him, so he didn't have to get involved in the ball playing part as much as Tedesco does. And I think 100%. Sometimes that makes Tedesco look a little bit worse in comparison to Minicello.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if Tedesco had like consistent, solid, good spine around him, he would go back to just being that devastating line runner, ball runner that he is. And he's still got that good passing game either side when he goes wide. And you'd see him play a more reserved role, but be probably just as more effective than what he currently is. And he would look a lot better than Minicello.
Like if you had to pick either one of them, drop them in a team right now, you get them at this start, so you get them at say 20, right? I could see where you could be like, Minicello's going to give you 8 crazy good years that are going to be a little bit better than the 8 years you get out of Tedesco. Only by a little bit, right?
Mm.
But Tedesco is going to play for longer, and he's going to have a much longer career where he is still one of your best players. But Minicello's probably over within 10 years.
Yeah.
Because Minicello played like he threw his body at everything 1,000%, and eventually you can't do that, you know? That worries me about Toto, actually.
I used to have the same, actually, the exact same conversation in my head when comparing Brett Mullins with Tim Brasher. Like, Brett Mullins at his absolute peak was untouchable. There was no fullback in the world better than him.
No.
But his peak was so short compared to Brasher. Brasher was just more consistent for a longer period of time.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
So it's exactly the same sort of thing. And so you sort of go, you probably lean towards Tedesco just because you know it's going to be a more sustained, good run of form for a longer period of time.
Yeah,
that's got to account for something.
Yeah, but then it's like I can get 94 Brett Mullins. I can have that lightning in a bottle. It's a tough one.
It is. Another player that was so I had Badderas. The other one was Thurston that I didn't. I might have added Thurston in there.
You know what? Thurston's got to be my last one. He just has to.
Yeah,
he has.
I think I had him in there, didn't I? I had Thurston. I can't remember what I had. I'm pretty sure Thurston. Anyway,
isn't it weird? And we've talked about this before on the podcast that like, we had like so many great hookers in the game, and then Badderas was going to be like Badderas was the latest and greatest, and then he stepped down for that test. For the tests, he wanted a break. Cameron Smith took that place off him in the Australian team, and just never looked back.
Yeah,
and Badderas is probably going to be forgotten about because he didn't get, you know, Steve Walters and Benny Elias had a decade where it was like either one of them. And then it was Badderas's.
Well, the funny thing about the Benny Elias, Steve Walters thing is that for 10 years, it was just those two battling it out. But on the few occasions where their form or they got injured was a bit down, Kerrod Walters just jumped in and took over.
Yeah. Look, Kerrod Walters is another one of those players that people forget about. Like, if you had a Kerrod Walters now, he would be so valuable.
Or scheming hooker.
Just like, and can play a couple of different positions, do it all pretty well. You know, he's got the pedigree and stuff. And, man, he'd be so good in today's game.
Yep. And finally, he put Craig Bellamy down as the coach.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's that story done.
Yeah, I think our teams would whip his team.
Yeah, comfortably.
Yeah.
Put 50 on them.
Yeah.
What's next? I know what's next.
Mm-hmm.
John Bateman believes he was made a scapegoat by the Tigers.
Yeah, well, he really was the only person that left the Tigers apart from the coach and CEO, most of the board, a lot of players. But yeah, it was him.
Mm.
He was the scapegoat. Oh, of course, he was the scapegoat when he wanted to go midway through the season. He wanted to go back home and flake out on another contract. Yeah, he was the scapegoat. Has John Bateman finished a contract yet with anyone that he signed one with?
I think he finishes contracts when he stops whinging.
Okay.
Yeah. So no.
That'll be a good day.
He says here, I had all intentions of going back, even though the club may have had a different view on that. When I got to England, I was seeing all these stories about my relationship with Benji. I was pretty disappointed it wasn't shut down early by the club. Benji came out 4 months later to say we never had an argument, but that could have been shut down a lot earlier. I didn't have any blow-ups or an argument with Benji or anything like that. The last time I spoke to him, we had a chat about moving forward, about what we want and the opportunity that Warrington had given me. That was the last time I spoke to him. I didn't hear from anyone once I got to England about coming back. I didn't hear anything when I was signed by the Cowboys in the pre-season.
I've got some breaking news, Andrew.
Mm.
John, you're right. They didn't want you anymore. You finally copped a tip while you're training with North Queensland. Good for you, buddy.
Could I just the second last thing he said?
Mm.
I got a bit of a feeling like I was a scapegoat last year, but we move on. It was 5 months ago, man.
It's funny. It's funny.
Thank you, Cowboys.
They really did well for the West Tigers.
I love the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I say they were robbed in 2005.
They were robbed in 2005. That's how much you want Oh, shit, that's funny.
Oh, boy. What else was there? I heard that Aaron Woods was at the WWE or something over in America.
I believe he went to the wrestling. He went to the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
And I actually...
He's been making more appearances in America than what he did for Manly last year.
That's funny. Oh, shit. It's really weird. I tweeted about this. It was late one night. I can't remember what night it was, but the NRL isn't so much promoting rugby league to America as they're promoting tourism to America to rugby league supporters in Australia. Like, none of this is doing anything to bring the profile of rugby league in America up at all. It's just like it's like sending back happy snaps and postcards back home.
Yeah.
People in the US aren't saying, hey, who's this guy that looks like Peter Russell Clark? Because Peter Russell Clark's huge over there. And,
well, that's because America loves their cheese.
Yeah. Where's the cheese? It just, the whole thing with this Las Vegas, games that they're playing, it does zero for rugby league in the United States, unfortunately, and we need to stop pretending that it does. And it's fine if we look at it as just a footy jaunt over there for one weekend, but let's not pretend that Aaron Woods being featured for 20 seconds on a broadcast over there for anything is doing anything for rugby league anywhere. It's just a face. It's like if we were watching an NRL game, right? And they were like, oh, here's one of the players that plays in the NHL at an NRL match. Would it do anything for ice hockey anywhere in the world?
No.
It just wouldn't. We'd be like, oh, that's something.
Speaking of NRL players being in the US.
Yes.
Curtis Scott.
Mm-hmm.
He's entered into talks to fight both bare knuckle and MMA.
He should do it. He should do it.
He'd be great at it.
Mm. Man, imagine fucking your career so badly that they're your career paths. Does he realize that how much money you don't make in either of those pursuits? And I know the top MMA guys, they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But just under the surface of those top guys, guys whose names they don't make a great deal of money at all.
Yeah, I think he's about to find out that being an ex-NRL player in the USA is kind of like being a ex-chess champion in Warrington.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Yeah.
The other thing about the US,
mm-hmm.
You can't half tell we're going to the USA for a few games.
Yeah.
Peter V'landys was put an ad out on Fox and Friends, sucking off Donald Trump. I mean, talking to Donald Trump and trying to get him to come to the game in LA.
We might be able to play the audio for that.
I mean, if you can.
Let me bring it up. I'll try and play it through my phone.
It reminded me of, I don't know about you, okay, but every now and then when I'm watching YouTube, you get these random ads for programs they've got to help people in offices mm-hmm. in the US. And one of them's called Monday.com. Mm-hmm. It's come up a few times. And I swear the first 15 words that are uttered in this ad, at least 12 of them are Monday.com.
Monday. Okay.
I just say the product name over and over and over and over and over again. And that's what they do. And that's what he sounded like in this when he said, Mr. President. He must have said it a ton of times. It just sounded like it was too much.
Okay, so this is going to go for 45 seconds. I'm going to play it all. It's coming through my phone. Hopefully it comes through okay. If it doesn't come through okay, Andrew.
Professional sound mixing. That's what this is.
You tell me, all right? So here we go.
President, I know you watch Fox and Friends.
Can you hear that?
Which is a great
Just.
extremely fair and balanced. Mr. President, we want to introduce you to the toughest game on earth, Rugby League, in the world's sport and entertainment capital, Las Vegas. We know you love physical, tough contact sports. There's no sport more brutal than Rugby League. Our players don't wear pads or helmets. As you know, Mr. President, the US has a trade surplus with Australia, one of the rare countries. You attending will balance this out a bit. Hope to see you at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on Saturday, March 1. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Fox and Friends.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
So, he says that, Mr. President, I know you like physical sports. I think the only sport I've seen Mr. President playing has been golf.
Yeah, golf. That's about it. I don't think
he says.
Although he does go to MMA, he does go to a lot of. He went to the Super Bowl. He went to this week. He went to the Daytona 500. Not many people saw him there because they were all engrossed in Aaron Woods.
Of course. Why wouldn't you be? Is that the cheese guy? But he also said rugby league was the most brutal sport on earth. And I went, there's boxing and there's
boxing's
UFC, MMA. Yep. There's that World Slapping Championship.
There's having to watch a full game of rugby union.
That's pretty brutal.
Fucking so brutal.
Yeah.
I'll take it out of you. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Look, it is easy promotion, but it's like I say, it's not promotion for here. It's not getting any traction. It's not promotion there. It's getting zero traction there. It's promotion for here. And now obviously our media picks up on it and has a yap about it like we are right now, but it's not doing anything over there.
I wouldn't have thought so. I made an argument, and I think some people are probably thinking I'm just being like picking a political side, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Because one person said, "Oh, what if it was the other side?" It was the same point. Okay, I don't think whenever you're doing anything to do with sport, with advertising, that you should be pandering to one political side or the other, because you're alienating too much of the rest of the country that you're trying to promote the sport to. And we can all agree that the US at the moment politically is about as divided as it's ever been.
I don't know about that, Andrew.
People either hate Trump and everything he's attached to, or they love Trump and everything he's attached to. And I think that if we go out there and say, we want the president here, and he turns up, everyone's going to go, oh, we love the NRL. And the other half's going to go, fuck the NRL. You know, I kind of don't want that. I kind of want it to just be everyone just going, this isn't a bad sport. We might just start watching this. And everyone's watching it.
Look, the majority of Americans do like Trump, right? And you just have to look at the poll results you got. But, yeah, I get what you mean. Look, he's getting huge like ovations in all of these events he is going to, which is interesting to see, because I think after his first term it wouldn't have been as huge as it is now. You know, I just wish I had a good Biden I could do, because it would be interesting to see Biden talking about rugby league.
Oh, easy, just start snoring.
Just like, there's a carrot, and we're going over there, and I remember I used to play this game once, and it's like just rambling.
My favorite Biden moment was when he called the Ukrainian president. He went to mention the Ukrainian president, and he mentioned Putin instead. Used his name instead.
My favorite one is I think it was a 4th of July. And he was giving a speech, and he was saying like, it's all about the American value of that. And then somebody stops it and just puts the mumbly word and just starts playing the anthem behind it. And it just, every time I see it, it cracks me up.
It's just like, wrap it up. Yeah. The other thing I don't like too about the V'landys advertising method, and he's done it in Australia, is, shitting on the local product.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I just think that's a very oafish way to go about promoting your game. Hey, we brought the sport to your country. Your sport's shit, so come watch ours.
But that's where, like, it's not about, he's not playing to the audience. He's not trying to sell it to anyone. He's selling it to rugby league people that are already sold. And that's,
I know, but
that's
the problem
is
it is also being aired though in America.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem. When you've got absolutely zero foothold there, I don't think shitting on the NFL, and I know he hasn't done it directly, he's just said, oh yeah, we don't even wear helmets and whatnot here. So you're basically implying that the football that they love is soft. And they love their football there. So if you're going to tell them it's soft, they're going to say, well, fuck you, we're not going to watch your sport then. You shove it up your ass and piss off. And that's going to be their attitude.
Yeah. I always think that the way to get, I think the easiest way to sell sport is when the sports fans themselves take it upon themselves and say to people, hey, I know you like this, right? Say it's the NFL. I know you like NFL. There's a sport I like, and it's really physical and stuff. You should have a look at it because you might like that too. Yeah. And that's about it as much as you've, put it on for them, show them some highlights to be like, oh yeah, this, it's not to be like, hey, dickhead. Like that's never a real good way to start.
No. I think they did do, I think a week or two ago, they did do a really good thing which backfired horribly on them.
Yeah.
The NRL. And that was they opened up their media library for people in America to try and make some, videos to promote rugby league in America.
All right.
And everyone's like, oh, this is a great idea. And everyone in Australia's gone, hey, what the fuck? Every time we put something up with NRL stuff on there, you bloody go and block it and we don't get any videos out there. What the fuck? It's like, yeah, you kind of shot yourself in the foot there. So they have the ideas. They just, I don't know why the NRL is so bitchy about their media library. Like, share that shit around and people will start promoting your game a lot more for free.
The NBA worked this out worked it out a long time ago, but they went full on. You can basically do what you want with their media about 15 years ago. And it has, try missing an NBA highlight. Like if you're on Twitter and you don't like basketball, I bet you've seen basketball highlights. If you're on YouTube and you don't like basketball, I bet you've seen basketball highlights. It's the way to go. And I don't think that seeing even a 5-minute clip of highlights is going to stop somebody from watching the overall sport. Now, I say that the NBA does have a problem with people actually watching the games. So, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not wrong.
No.
I'm never wrong.
Never heard that before.
Yeah. It seems just impossible.
There was this other article which I saw today.
Mm-hmm.
The WA Premier tells Peter V'landys to shut his mouth.
Okay.
WA Premier Roger Cook has told NRL boss Peter V'landys to zip it after suggestions that sensitive information has been leaked.
Mm-hmm.
And this comes after the NRL's plans for a expansion team in Perth. So it says he plans for a club over there. It's been since V'landys tore up offers from a private consortium headed up by Cash Converters Deputy Chair Peter Cummins to take up the 19th NRL franchise in a partnership with the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this went about was because of the deal that PNG got to have a team, thanks to the $600 million package from the federal government.
Yeah.
V'landys went out and tried to broker a similar size deal from the WA government.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that deal, so what does this here? The NRL's wish list from Cook's government includes a $120 million investment in the NRL and a further commitment of at least $200 million to upgrade Perth's rectangular HBF stadium to a 27,000-seat venue. So he wants $320 million from the Perth government.
And I honestly do believe that the Premier of Western Australia really actually does want an NRL team to be there. Because the fact that he talks about it so much says that to me. I think he probably was unhappy that plans that they were putting in place and how much government funding it was going to take were leaked, because it is a lot of money. A $200 million stadium upgrade to that stadium would make it a really, really good venue. But just the financial commitment that they'd been making to a rugby league team, probably felt like, man, can you just shut the fuck up about this for a bit?
It's funny you just say that. Yeah. Because Cook said about Peter V'landys.
Yeah.
He's a tough bugger, but if he could just shut up for a little while, you bring him up and say, how are you? And the next day in the Daily Telegraph, you get the Premier asked about my health.
There you go.
But the Premier there has said that they are absolutely keen to have a NRL team, but we aren't talking about this year, next year, or even the year after that. This is a long-term plan, he said.
Yeah. I think we should talk about Peter V'landys.
Okay.
So you and me have many years ago, the listeners of this podcast that have been here since day one, God bless you, they know.
Apologies.
They know that we were at a stage where we were like, we need a dictator to come in. All of this leading by committee bullshit needs to go out the window. Rugby league has always been on the front foot. When somebody is in charge, there's no questions about that. There's no questions about who's next in line. There is one king and they run it all and they make the decisions and everyone has to deal with it. We talked about that. Then V'landys comes in. Everything he hasn't done is perfect. And we've brought up the things he's done wrong. There's the constant rule changes, the changing some rules in the middle of the season. The short-term deal he did with Channel 9 during COVID was actually really bad. Yeah. Probably lost the game quite a bit of money.
And look, the reason why we initially were opposed to him when he came along was because the media was so enamored with him.
Yeah.
And when they're happy, that's something that we automatically go, hang on, something's not right here.
Yes, 100%. And then, like, one of the early mistakes he makes is giving Channel 9 money back.
Yes.
And which infuriated us.
Yeah.
Now, since then, we've had that deal to get a PNG team is literally unbelievable.
Yeah, insane.
I mean, it really is insane. He's going to get a team in Perth on, once again, a deal that is unbelievable, keeping in mind that previous administrations, it would have been completely rugby league funded and the government would have probably not been involved at all. But here we have the WA government's really, I mean, they're going to spend a lot of money to get that team. And then there was reports that come out this week, and I'm reading off of Sports Industry's Twitter feed. He's been on the podcast before. I'll get him on soon, actually.
Yep.
But Footy Industry AU on Twitter. Rugby League will head to Las Vegas in the rudest of health after it emerged that the Australian Rugby League Commission would post a record revenue in excess of $740 million for 2024 and a surplus of more than $60 million. Remarkably, the game now boasts more than $320 million in net assets after a concerted campaign designed to ring-fence rugby league from financial disaster. So basically what it means is that they've got a profit this year or a profit last year of $60 million that could go straight to the bank. But they now own assets of $320 million, which they didn't have, I think, 6 years ago? They didn't own any assets. So between the TV ratings, which are very good, between the financial health of the game, which is outrageously good, for all of the things that we don't agree with Peter V'landys on, I think that at the end of the day, he's doing overall an outstanding job. He's doing things that we wanted a dictator to do. Under the old admin, we would never have seen Las Vegas. you know, and whether it's just a footy weekend away or it's more than that, and we don't think it's more than that. It's still something that rugby league used to do in the past. It would go out and it would try things. It would get on the front foot. It would try and do new things. Volandis has pushed that once again into rugby league, and I think it's been a good thing. But I think at the same time, the type of people that you and me are, we're like always skeptical of people in power.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just people in power or just... I don't like how close he is with the media, because it means that he's not open to scrutiny, because that's what these media do. They either scrutinize you till you get sacked, or they talk you up and flush you up for eternity, and never ever find a weak point or a bad thing to say about you. And he's just sort of being, you know, look how great Volandis is. It's just like being rammed down your throat incessantly. And that's the thing that I push back on. I'm just like, yeah, you know what? Not everyone is perfect like that, and the media don't. That's the bit. I think my relationship is more with the media than Volandis himself. I agree that he has been. I think in the last few years, he has been doing a lot better. I mean, I've complained much less about what he does. The rule changes that have come through since COVID and during COVID have been unnecessary.
Yeah,
I'll put it at that. I don't think they've aided the game in any way. You kind of want the game to be free flowing and understandable to everyone. And when you just hear bells going off or whistles going, or just team just gets an extra set of 6 and no chance to digest or understand why it just keeps going. It's part of the problem that rugby union has, and that is too many rules happening too often, and it becomes stop-start, or just too many questions coming up, and to the casual fan looking and going, what was that for? And you get caught on, why did that happen? And when you get stuck with people asking what was that for, why did that happen, it leads to a frustration. And you kind of want to eliminate that where you can. People weren't getting frustrated with the penalties being called, right? They've created an issue that didn't exist out of something that wasn't there by listening to what the media were complaining about, because the media wasn't watching the actual game and understanding it properly. And so that was where a lot of those issues come from. The assets thing, it'd be good to know what all those assets are.
Like when the annual report comes out, we'll look at that as much as we can.
Did they publish them?
I didn't see the one for last year. I saw the one for the year before, but I haven't seen the one that they put out for this year.
Okay.
So, but I mean, because I thought it would have been on the NRL website, you know. But
that's where the other ones are.
Yeah, no, but I couldn't find it. Like, I found last year's one, like in terms of the year before, is what I mean. But for the year just gone, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I don't know where it's gone.
Because there used to be a whole section with it. I can't remember what it was called. This is the exciting part of the podcast.
Oh, yeah, we just start looking at a website.
Yeah, we're like, ooh, let's look up some financial information, media releases, operations, maybe?
Yeah, I'm in operations at the moment, but I can't see it in here.
Because I know we've looked at them in the past.
Yeah. No, to me it looks like it's gone.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll when we get that information, we'll talk about it, because it's the sort of shit me and Andrew do. You know, so, but look, I think with Peter Volandis, I feel like it's almost like he is the net, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's probably a turn of phrase that I could have a better turn of phrase, but I can't think of it right now. But I think he is the necessary evil that rugby league needs to have. And that's what you get with the dictator. He'll make all of these really good moves and all of these good decisions, but he'll make one or two that you're like, oh, that's fucked, and you can't do anything about it because he's a dictator.
I think that would work well if he had the head of the NRL actually had a clue what rugby league was, and every now and then he could just say, "Hey, Peter, no, like I'm a fan of some of your work, but that idea there, that's just shit. Can we not do that one? Thanks." And so he just needs not someone above him, but someone underneath just to, say, yeah, go ahead with that one, or just pump the brakes on one, fella. That, you just fucked up there. Just stop that, all right? And if you just had that, I think that would make it perfect. I don't know what the point is of Andrew Raptor. I don't know what he does other than read stats wrong and make some up. What does he do?
Yeah, I think that he must it's just all got to be commercial. It's all commercial.
It's all it can be. It's some infrastructure thing. It's got nothing to do with the actual game. And I don't like that part. Put him in the commercial team if you need to, but don't put him as running the game. That just seems stupid.
Yeah. But it's an interesting thing to think about that, you get the good with the bad under this sort of system. And look, the thing about the Australian Rugby League Commission was the head of the Australian Rugby League Commission, which is what Volandes is, it was supposed to be basically a silent post,
He changed that.
And he changed it, and now it's the head of the game in Australia.
Well, and maybe they could put...
He did it very quickly, and he did it easily, and he did it without any
pushback. Look who he replaced, though.
Well, yeah.
He replaced an absolute deadbeat politician, so it wasn't really like he had a hard task to do better than.
That's a good point. That is a good point too. But overall, I would rather have a Volandes than a politician. And I think Volandes, in terms of being the head and the face of the NRL, I think Volandes is the best dude we've had since, crazily enough, David Gallop, who, when you think about what that guy had to deal with on what was basically a shoestring budget, and it's pretty crazy. He went through some of the worst crises in the game.
I'd say Neil Whittaker probably had it harder.
Neil Whittaker would have had it harder, but that was the heart of the Super League war.
That's right, and he got us through that. You know what? I think what we need is kind of like a Darth Vader situation where we just need Volandes to be the voice. We need something a bit sexier to be the body.
We need, what would be? Oh man, this would be so perfect if you had Peter Volandes' voice coming out of Stacey Keebler.
There we go. That's fixed.
Honestly, that would do it for me.
That's fixed.
Yeah, you had Stacey Keebler come out. Remember when she was? I think she was the secretary or something for Vince McMahon, and
she just straight into an era we probably should steer clear of.
Yeah, no, I love that era. It was great. And then she would come out, and then she'd open her mouth and be like, "Rugby League should be on TV in the United States, mate." I'll be honest, I'm chubbing up right now.
Hey, that'll work. Sexy Darth Vader with PVL's voice. Oh, there you go. We fixed that problem. Well, what else has been going on?
On last weekend, the biggest win in Super League ever. St. Helens beat Salford 82 points to 0.
Yeah. So I have heard a bit about this.
Yeah, it's good advertisement for the game.
So Salford had a semi moment in administration, but instead of going into full administration, they did get a new buyer. But before the buy, the sale has gone through. The Super League has basically said to Salford that because at your current point right now, then this actual day, you don't have the capability to pay for the entire squad you've got. We're going to reduce your salary cap by 50% or thereabouts. And so Salford had to field basically a reserve grade team to run out against St. Helens, and they got absolutely dicked 82-0.
Yeah.
And then next week when the sale goes through, they're allowed to have their full salary cap back and everything back. And I just go, what was the fucking point of that?
That's when you don't have somebody that's a dictator running the sport.
But they don't have anyone running the sport.
Yeah, no, exactly. You really do. You just need somebody that's running it that says, I know what the rules are. that they get to run their team out. And when somebody says, but what about, Article 7? And you just say, shut up, I'm the boss. And that's what Peter V'landys would do. And England, rugby league over there is fucked, so it doesn't matter really.
So on the same round, because last week was round 1 of Super League, that they had an 82-0 victory.
Mm-hmm.
They also had Lee beat Wigan I think it was in Golden Point, 1-0.
Yeah, it's to me, that's a really cool result. I know that you think that's a really cool result.
That is pretty impressive. They actually had more sin binnings in that game than they did points.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Liam Farrell and Adam Keyram were both sin binned.
Yeah.
2 binnings and 1 point.
To me, that was a really interesting result. But yeah, and then to follow it up with that, 82-0 games, just ridiculous. But
the penalties even did better than the scoreboard. And there was only 4 penalties in the match. Lee won the penalties 3-1.
Well, good for Lee. Good for Lee. And they've got beautiful jerseys too.
I've not seen.
Well, they look like basically it's something that Cyndi Lauper would have worn.
Oh, they're still going that way.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
All Star game.
Yeah. All Star game. Oh, that's right. Apparently that was played. I had no idea that was on. Do they still play that?
It was quite lower profile this year.
I'd say.
Yeah, and I was thinking about why that was, and the crowd was, I think it was 21,000 were at the game at Parramatta Stadium, so the crowd wasn't bad. The game was all right. It was played in 4 quarters. The first two quarters were like so. The second half of the match was actually pretty good, but I was thinking about why it didn't have the profile it did, and I don't know. I wonder if it's going to go ahead next year.
The All Stars. It's because you can't. Yeah. In a time of woke, you can't pick a team to not like.
Well, you know what I was thinking it maybe is that people are sick and tired of being hit over the head with messages, right? Like we've all been bashed over the head with different fucking messages for the last 10 years or something, and people are just over it. And a lot of that is political stuff.
Yes.
And I was thinking that stuff is sort of like somebody writing a poem and reading the poem out with music in the background of it. Whereas the All-Star game is like a song. It's a different thing altogether, but it's kind of similar, close-ish to the stuff we're sick of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if just people want to just watch footy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the All-Star game. I think the whole concept, and I love it how it's Maori players versus Indigenous players. I think it's the way to go. But I wonder if the political messaging that's been happening for so long in so many different areas of people's lives that people are just starting to turn off from things that even feel like they're being talked to about stuff that they've been hit over the head with, which I don't think is what's happened with the All-Star game or with the concept at all. But I think you could make that connection. And I wonder if some people have made that connection. I don't know. Because I was trying to think about it, why is the volume being turned down on this game so much this year? It didn't make any sense to me. And I was trying to think of what it could possibly be. I don't know if it was that. I really don't know.
It's a lot of very good points. I think I was just stuck on the concept that I just think it was one of those things where people watch sports so they can cheer for your team and shit on the other one. And if you went and shit on one of the teams that were both sides were Indigenous, then that makes you look like an absolute prick. And so people go along and go, well, I just have to celebrate both teams and everyone gets a prize.
Yeah.
That's sort of got that air about it. And so it's hard to get passionate about it, I guess, which is what you need in order to get the fans there. I too think the idea and the concept is amazing. I love the idea of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, this has been happening for a few years now. I don't get the chance to watch these sort of games because I'm usually working when it's on.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think the idea of it is a brilliant concept. Maybe it needs to be used in a different way. Instead of just being something that's in the preseason when a lot of people aren't really focusing on footy, we could play it during the year sometime, so I can actually get, a better audience and people can get more invested in it. I don't know. Something like that's got to happen. Why couldn't this just replace what City versus Country was, perhaps?
Yeah. Because I remember when we had the I think it was the NRL All Stars versus the Indigenous All Stars, I think it was. And I was like, I remember thinking, man, we should have the Maoris versus the Indigenous team. That would be fucking amazing, right?
Well, it happened in the 2000 World Cup?
The 2000 World Cup, there was a Maori team. There wasn't an Indigenous
That's
side.
right. No, it was one of the World Cups where they had here in Australia. They opened the World Cup. It was 2008. And they opened it with an unofficial game between the Maori and the Indigenous, and they were absolutely phenomenal.
And it was so cool. And so I like the game. I love that that's what the All-Star game is. But it just I was trying to work out, like, why is it that for whatever reason this game hasn't grabbed people much at all this year? And I just was trying to come up with something, and that's the best I could come up with.
It's just not put on that pedestal like legit rep games. It's treated like it is just a trial game, and I think that's the problem. If you put it in amongst the rest of the season, the regular season when the games every game matters, that too will automatically matter as well. People will get interested in it. If it had some purpose to the football players, other than something to do with just the Indigenous cultures of both nations, but it could lead to higher rep honours. I think then you start giving it an absolute genuine higher purpose within the game, as well as the purpose it currently serves. And I think that's how you make it something really big and unique.
Now, it's interesting we're talking about this because the NBA just had its All-Star weekend, and their All-Star game has been falling off for 20 years now. And it's got to the point where they're playing around with formats and stuff, and they've just had a disaster of an All-Star weekend. It was just a cataclysmic disaster. And it made me think about how the NRL All Star game is, funnily enough, so much more competitive, and the players really actually try, and they really actually want to win the game. And when they win, they're really happy. And when they lose, they're actually really gutted, which is great. But then I was thinking, if these games were happening during standalone State of Origin weekends where we had a game like this, and then we had Tonga versus Samoa and Fiji playing PNG and games like that, man, that would turn Origin weekends into just this spectacular. All of these games are amazing.
Yeah.
Must watch TV events 3 times a year in the middle of the footy season. And I wonder if that's maybe somewhere where you would move a game like this into a slot like that.
Absolutely.
Because there was, it deserved the NRL All Star game, and the Maori versus Indigenous game deserves a bigger audience. And
I fully agree. It's
not going in the right direction. And I just was like, I wonder why this is.
Yeah, I think the problem, this is my perspective, the NBA one, I think they've intentionally made it a fun, jokey thing by, having the NBA, was it the 3-point shootouts and the dunk contest and stuff like that? Don't get me wrong, they're awesome. But I think people might be more interested in watching those contests than the actual game. Because, they get 4,000 NBA games a year. What's another one? Who cares? But the dunk contest and the 3-point contest, those sort of things, that's different. That's unique. people still love those things because you don't see it any other time of the year. And that's the thing that the All Stars game of the NRL has, is it's unique. We don't see that at any other time on the calendar. This is the only time we get an Aboriginal team playing against a Maori team.
Yeah.
And so it is special and unique for that purpose. And they're playing legit footy. They're not out there mucking around and being dicks. They're ripping in and having a red hot go.
Yeah,
because it means something to them and their cultures, as it should do.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I think as the game itself should respect the passion the players are putting into that by actually giving it a proper audience and giving it significant screen time and putting it on, during the regular season, not tucked away in the trials where people still aren't really tuning in that much, and a lot of teams aren't even fielding full strength sides and stuff. Are they, Ricky?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of it's a very interesting question you've raised. So
yeah, just I couldn't work out why it was, and I feel like the NRL didn't promote it as much this year. I didn't feel like the crowd was okay, but it should have been bigger. And I just was like, what happened here?
They probably spent all the advertising money on that stupid video PVL did for Fox and Friends.
Imagine if it turned out that's what it was. It's interesting to look at some of the things that happen in rugby league, and when things don't go right, I like to think about why they didn't go right.
Yes.
And, something just didn't click this year. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, no idea. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I think that's it. Hey, I think
that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else that went on.
Don't forget, people, you can join our footy tipping competition on the NRL website this year. It's free. You just got to sign up to the NRL website to do it. We'll talk about it during the year. There's still a couple more weeks to jump on board for that, so make sure you do. And I'll put the link to join our competition in the description of this podcast.
Yep, and there's no prizes unless Freaky or myself wins.
Yeah, then there'll be like mini gifts and riches and all sorts of stuff.
That's right. Yeah,
money involved.
A cascade of cash.
Yeah,
A cashcade.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're gonna have to find some money.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
All right. Well, I think we've smashed out a good one there.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the majority of it was actually fixing Buzz Rothfield's mess of the team of the century thus far.
Yeah, so that was really pretty bad.
That needed to be rectified.
Yeah.
We've righted the record there. And we've also saved you a bit of time because instead of having another 3-hour odd episode, we've knocked it down a little bit this time around. So you should be able to catch up by the time we do our next episode. Episode 550 coming up. So if you've got any questions of what we should, things you want to ask us, could be anything at all. Remember, this is a Formula One podcast. You can tell by the amount of Formula content we had this time around.
Mm-hmm.
So you can ask us anything about any sport. Seriously, we know everything.
Yeah, so just send us an email, podcast@leaguefreak.com.
That is as easy as it is.
Yeah.
And we'll get into those in the next episode. So, you've got homework. You need to do it. Like, seriously, otherwise we've got to, think again.
Not our strong suit.
It's just not. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on all the socials, and we will catch us all next time.